Such is the story of a man named Kanji Yakutani. He's a professor at Tokyo University where he works relentlessly, and when he gets up, he experiences. Now, you must be wondering what creates this kind of unhealthy work ethic. Unfortunately, she died of a brain tumor back when he was still a boy. He recalls that one time when she asked him if she would get better by taking the medicine. Of course, the situation was complicated, but seeing the innocent expression of his sister, he couldn't help but say everything would be alright. Professor Kanji felt completely helpless as he saw his sister die a slow and painful death. I promise there's nothing inappropriate going on in this anime. Anyway, she then notices a peculiar mark on his shoulder. Pharma dismisses it as a burn mark from the lightning, takes him to the library to see if he can also recall all the medical knowledge he was taught because apparently his father likes to quiz him about it at the dinner table. Pharma looks through the books and, as expected, the medical knowledge of this world is generations behind compared to where he came from. Then, when it's time for dinner, he convinces his father that he's recovered, and so he can start studying with his tutor once again about the ability to create and erase every single element, but she replies that no such power exists. Even if it did, that individual will be an enigma, or a monster. Of course, hearing this, Pharma decides not to tell. She conjures up water using her wand, and then asks Pharma to do the same. Though Pharma not only performs, Pharma's father later tells him that his tutor has come down with a fever, plus she also wants to retire from tutoring him for some reason. He asks Pharma to bring medicine to her, and after improvising it, he shows up at her place. She wasn't feeling so good, and most importantly, she was terrified of him. Pharma sincerely asks her to be his tutor once again. He may have all this power, but he's still a novice when it comes to understanding of the divine arts. Though if she still chooses to stay away from him, he'll simply excuse himself. Eleanor gives in. Besides, Panactheos is supposed to be a benevolent entity, and so she had no reason to be scared in the first place. Later, Pharma notices that the household servants are all suffering from one ailment or another, and so he decides to use his eye to help them with their medical problems. Everyone genuinely appreciates this effort. Some servants even start crying. Looks like getting medicine while being a mere servant is a big deal, or so Latte tells him. Pharma realizes that this kind of thinking is wrong. Medicine shouldn't be a privilege, it's a basic human right. And so he makes the decision to find a way to make medicine available and affordable for everyone. There's an emergency meeting where Pharma's father explains that his sister has contracted chickenpox, which is why he should be careful while going close to her. Though Pharma doesn't listen, he uses his medical knowledge from the modern world to create a medicine, sneaks into his sister Blanche's room, and feeds her the medicine. However, since he doesn't want his father to know about his divine eye, he makes Blanche promise to keep this a secret. Their father, Bruno, is surprised to see the miraculous recovery. Following this, Pharma creates a pocket-sized microscope in order to better use the power of his divine eye. Bruno then summons Pharma to join him as he visits Empress Elizabeth herself. Looks like the Empress's health is in a critical state. When they arrive, the royal palace is filled with all sorts of important people. Everyone can more or less tell that she doesn't have much longer. Bruno examines her blood using magic, then consults the astrologist. Putting those two observations together, he concludes that she'll most likely pass away the following night. Although when the Empress herself asks him the same question, he states his medicine will work, even though Pharma knows that all he's feeding the Empress is anesthesia. Everyone had already given up, and his father was just telling lies to ease her suffering at the moment. However, Pharma wasn't having any of that. He uses his eye to diagnose her. Apparently, she has lung cancer as well as tuberculosis. He knows this isn't going to be an easy task. He's short on time and there's no equipment from the modern world either, but even so, the Empress might still be saved, though he was still hesitating. But just then, the Empress's son comes running to meet his mother, and this prompts him to act. He requests permission from the Empress herself. Everyone's puzzled, but she gives him the permission to prepare the medicine. Just like that, he confines himself in a room and gets to work. But he's interrupted by his father, who tells him that he realized the Empress's illness is the White Death. But a cure for that illness doesn't exist. In case you're wondering, White Death used to be the name of tuberculosis back in the early 18th century. Pharma is surprised to hear this because, unlike him, his father was able to properly diagnose her without any exceptional abilities. Bruno then tells him that he shouldn't be so insincere. Why would he give the Empress such elaborate false hope? However, Pharma firmly replies that his medicine will work, and he'll have to take it as well since he's also suffering from White Death, although it's in the early stages. Bruno gets aggressive and asks him what he's planning, but Pharma stops his attacks without even using an incantation. This surprises him. He then looks at Pharma's journal and finds a number of medicines he didn't know about before. Pharma explains that he dreamt it all up when he was struck by lightning. Plus, Bruno also notices the mark of Panatheos on his shoulder. This makes him deduce that his son was blessed with medical revelations by Panatheos. Later, when Pharma takes the medicine to the Empress, the court physician asks Bruno if they should stop his son. But Bruno simply replies that his son's skills have already surpassed his own. Pharma then uses his pocket microscope to show the existence of the bacteria that was plaguing the Empress. Everyone is stunned. This changed the way they view illnesses, but he states that if she takes his medicine for 6 months, she'll recover. The Empress agrees to take the medicine, and so that's a big win for Pharma. When Pharma and Bruno are on their way back home, Bruno wonders if his approach to medicine was wrong and whether he has also failed as a parent. But Pharma reassures him that even though he may have powers, he still needs his father's guidance to learn how to be a doctor. Bruno accepts the sentiment and also makes sure to take the medicine to cure his own White Death. Later, Pharma talks to him about making the knowledge of the cure public, but Bruno warns him to be careful because many would see this as heresy. In fact, Bruno also wonders that someone must have brought the White Death to the palace in order to assassinate the Empress. Pharma disagrees since a virus whose odds of infection are only 10% doesn't sound like a good assassination attempt. Hearing this, Bruno wonders how long it'll take him to get to his son's level. Suffice to say, he's a proud father. Pharma is then informed by a young noble of the palace that the Empress seeks to reward him. He can have anything he wants: money, status, territory, whatever. Pharma thinks about it for a second, and then realizes that this would be a good opportunity to get permission to open his own pharmacy. He mentions this to the Empress, how he wants to open a pharmacy that treats nobles and commoners equally, and she gives him the green light. The Empress was somewhat down though because of her health. She wonders if she's fit to rule the kingdom, but Pharma tells her that everyone needs her. This reassures her, and she states that she has already died once. Hopefully her second life will be much better. Pharma replies that he's in a similar boat. Months pass by and Empress Elizabeth has made a full recovery. Bruno and Pharma are invited to a special ceremony where Bruno's appreciated for raising such a fine pharmacist and is also awarded a land with plenty of herbs. As for Pharma, the Empress promotes him from apprentice pharmacist to royal pharmacist. He also gets a badge and everything, and she publicly allows him to open his own pharmacy. From there on out, it's time to grind. Pharma works with plenty of professionals to build his pharmacy, and once it's done, he exclaims that he never thought the pharmacy he always wanted to build would come true in a parallel world. One of the workers listens in on this statement and accidentally mistakes it for the pharmacy's actual name. And just like that, the pharmacy is called Parallel World Pharmacy. But the complications hadn't ended yet. The head of the Pharmaceuticals Guild shows up to make light of Pharma's pharmacy. Try saying that twice. But our sweet Eleanor politely tells him to take a long walk off a short spear. Anyway, the next step was the staff. Latte walks in, but Pharma tells her that she's just 9 years old. But because of her dedication, he decides to get her on board. He also needed an accountant, and for that, his father Bruno retires his own accountant named Cedric, who is then hired by Pharma. And since Cedric's legs were failing him, he treats them as well. Furthermore, Bruno gives Pharma a stupid amount of gold to help him get started. Plus, Pharma already knew that the only reason his father retired Cedric was so that he could work for his pharmacy instead. Realizing this, Pharma's grateful to his father. Although, running a business is easier said than done. For the entire first month, they hardly ever had any customers. Latte did a survey on why this was the case, and thanks to her data collection, Pharma and the others realized how the commoners are getting intimidated by the pharmacy. They're afraid that if they accidentally do or say something inappropriate, they'll be punished. Pharma decides to display the prices of the medicines outside so that it's not as intimidating as it was before. Soon enough, there's a return customer. It's an old sailor named Jean, who comes around to buy sweets that can help him cure scurvy, which is a common disease among sailors, due to a lack of vitamin C. Next up, a masked, sketchy couple tries to sneak into the pharmacy, but Pharma notices that it's just his wholesome parents. Looks like they didn't want to disrupt his business, and so they tried to keep their identities ambiguous, and well, that didn't work. Pharma shows them around and then expresses his concerns about how they aren't really getting any customers. His mother, Beatrice, suggests that they should try selling cosmetics, although Bruno says that he should be wary of the face powder because those who use it often die young. Pharma realizes once again that his father is able to tell important stuff even though he doesn't have the same abilities and knowledge as himself. In this case, face powder contains lead, which is of course toxic for the skin, though Pharma agrees with his mother's suggestion and tries to take the cosmetics route. Luckily, they get a customer soon enough. She's a noble named Chloe, who tried to turn her skin pale by bloodletting, and now she seems to be suffering from anemia. Looks like the guy she wants to be with prefers pale girls. Pharma reassures her that there's no need to resort to such self-destructing measures. He prepares a special cream that not only makes her skin look paler, but it also helps with moisturizing and sunburns. A luxury product in every sense of the word. Chloe is presently surprised, and since she's the daughter of a famous magnate, she uses her father's influence to spread the word. Suddenly, it's rapid fire. Commoners start showing up. They're delighted by not just the products, but also the prices. And even though they show up for the cosmetics, they also stick around for the economical medicine. Business was finally blooming for the parallel world pharmacy. Too much, in fact. Pharma was having trouble juggling both medicine and cosmetics. And this is where Chloe shows up with a solution. She offers to operate a subsidiary to his pharmacy which only deals with cosmetics. Meanwhile, he can focus on medicine. Tons of beautiful female pharmacists who are laid off or having children get jobs once again thanks to this subsidiary branch. Pharma thanks them and also tells them that he'd make sure to put into motion policies of maternity leave, among other things. Hearing this, all of them instantly knew that they had chosen the right boss. Soon enough, Empress Elizabeth hears about Pharma's cosmetics, and right away she decides to ban the other lead-based products, so that people only buy the right cosmetics. Talk about influence. Though don't worry, she makes sure to advise those other shops that they should reframe their business and start using the cosmetic recipes designed by Pharma. And the Empress also instructs Pharma that he should raise the price of his products just enough so that he doesn't put the commoners out of business. Pharma appreciates her advice and decides to go through with it. Later, Pharma and his family visit the lands which were allotted to them by the Empress. First, he's in a meeting with a lot of important people, but his father tells him that he can just go and have fun. And so together with Latte, Eleanor, and his younger sister named Blanche, he's at the beach. Latte and Blanche want to play, and so he gives them to go along as they're careful. Pharma also recalls a moment from his previous life when he and his younger sister were at the beach and she wanted to swim, but since she was too young, he had to keep her from going into the sea. Unfortunately, his sister never had the opportunity to swim. Now, as Pharma was reminiscing, Blanche gets swept away because of an ocean tide. Pharma instantly runs and dives into the ocean to go save her, but he might be too late. The waves were so random and harsh. Then, out of sheer desperation, he activates his powers, which somehow create a massive hole in the ocean. He then takes her back to safety. Eleanor and Latte are both surprised. In fact, they're startled. Pharma didn't just use his negative attribute skill to diminish or move the water, he actually erased it from existence, which is supposed to be theoretically impossible. And it wasn't just Eleanor who was freaking out. Later, Pharma realizes that he could have easily erased the water inside the bodies of Blanche, Latte, and Eleanor. Thankfully, what he erased was just the seawater, but next time he'd be more careful. Little did he know that a witness had already informed the Holy Diocese about this incident. They immediately send orders to every temple that if they locate a boy with no shadow, he's to be executed immediately. Later, when Pharma is at a pharmacy, two cloaked priests seem to be watching him. He notices, but they quickly bail. Next morning, a horse with a carriage full of mud breaks into the pharmacy and wrecks the shop. Bruno deduces that someone is specifically targeting Pharma. Thankfully, the damage is undone because Sailor Jean and his crewmates show up to help him clean. The other shop owners and customers help as well, though Pharma has to leave when a woman arrives and claims that her father needs immediate medical attention. Unfortunately, this was a bait. Pharma is led to a deserted field where those from the priests confront him. They deem him as an evil spirit taking the form of a human, considering his lack of shadow and unexplainable powers, and try to attack him. Of course, Pharma easily handles them and explains that he means no harm. Surprisingly, they back off, but not because of his statement, but because they see the mark of Panic-Theos on his shoulder. That's right, Panic-Theos is the deity they worship, and considering how Pharma is seemingly the incarnation of Panic-Theos, the head priest Solomon immediately decides to commit suicide in order to make amends. Pharma stops him from doing so and heals him as well as the ones who were injured in the attack. A few months later, when Solomon is promoted to bishop, he visits the pharmacy and then tells Pharma that he'll make sure to keep his identity a secret from the diocese. Not only that, but Solomon has also brought plenty of gifts, from pastries to a divine staff, as well as a talisman, which could help him cast a shadow. Now, Pharma was safe from all abductions once again, but he was still having problems with that guild leader. He decides to be bold and founds a new guild together with the neighboring pharmacies. However, that very night, the daughter of a young pharmacist named Pierre, who is associated with that other guild, ends up suddenly falling ill. Everything would have been fine if he could just take his daughter to Pharma for some medicine, but that guildmaster states that all of his guild members are straight up forbidden from having anything to do with the parallel world pharmacy. Pierre's anxiety goes through the roof as he struggles to find someone who can help his daughter. Fortunately, Pharma himself invites him into the pharmacy. He diagnoses his daughter with influenza, but gives her proper care as well as affordable medicine. Pierre is moved. He deems Pharma as the very pinnacle of what a pharmacist should hope to be. Now that guildmaster wasn't taking this very well. He already knows that Pharma has the backing of the Empress and Solomon, and so hearing Pierre tell him that he should learn a thing or two from Pharma, However, the guildmaster states that one of his children died in the past just because a noble doctor refused to treat him, which is why he'll never trust a noble again. In the end, Pierre's shop is destroyed, and his license is also taken away. Though of course Pierre then joins Pharma's new compounding pharmacy guild, and is able to continue working as a pharmacist. He spends some time learning Pharma's techniques and knowledge so that his new pharmacy named Dawn Pharmacy is only stuffed with Pharma's medicine. All in all, Pharma was essentially revolutionizing public health. Empress Elizabeth acknowledges his impact on the basic health of the citizens and realizes just how much of a role he plays when it comes to the kingdom's prosperity. Meanwhile, Bruno has a harsh reminder of his former acquaintance Camus, who conducted inhumane experiments on human subjects for the sake of medicine. He was banished from the kingdom for this reason. Anyway, Bruno receives a letter from his older son named Pale, who reveals the emergence of some deadly epidemic that has originated from the Ponte Island. This was not to be taken lightly, since the kingdom's annual fair is coming up soon, and plenty of stuff is being imported which will come through this island. Bruno looks to Pharma to investigate and see what it is, and after a thorough analysis from the available descriptions, he deduces that what they're dealing with is the Black Death. In case you didn't know, the Black Death is a devastating global pandemic that killed almost a third of Europe's entire population. All in all, some estimates state that the death toll was anywhere between 75 million to 200 million, also known as the Black Plague. I'll let that sink in. Of course, Pharma knew what they were dealing with, and so his family instantly started making efforts to initiate quarantine along with the help of fellow pharmacists and nobles. Following this, Pharma and Eleanor depart for a place called Marcière, because the wares are supposed to arrive there before reaching the capital. Meanwhile, a certain someone returns to the capital while emitting a dark and ominous aura. It's Camus. When Pharma and Eleanor arrive, they're able to quickly inspect the merchant ships because the leader is good old Sailor Jean. Apparently, they're all good at the port, but Pharma is quickly informed about a village which was just struck by the plague because a rogue ship decided to dock there in order to avoid the quarantine. Pharma immediately sent out to the village alone and arrives just in time to stop those desperate villagers from leaving and spreading the disease. Thanks to his rank as a royal pharmacist, he's able to quickly get their attention and then put in place some proper treatment measures. Though once he's done with their preparations, he goes and deals with these sections of the town which are filled with isolated people. Their condition was so dire, everyone had no choice but to seclude them. On the other hand, a commodore named Gabi decides to sink that ship which had docked illegally. While only corpses were on it at this point, those who were still alive had already bailed. In the following days, Pharma's team, as well as people associated with him, try their very best in preventing the outbreak of the Black Death, because once it becomes a thing, it's game over. Bruno asks a professor named Casper to help Pharma develop antibiotics which can be produced without divine arts, so that they can mass-produce them. Meanwhile, the priests intercept crew members from that rogue ship. Pharma learns that they were not only carrying white squirrels from Ponte to spread the plague, but they also have 5 holy knights from another nation. He connects the dots, and as it turns out, Bruno's initial suspicions regarding the cause of Empress Elizabeth's disease were correct. Someone's trying to dust their kingdom by spreading lethal diseases. In fact, the very next morning, one of those knights enters the capital and releases those white squirrels. This was a nationwide emergency. Either they do something, or be wiped out by the Black Death. Bruno and Elizabeth talk about it and suspect that since Camus killed the King of Netherland, he might be the one using the resources in order to take revenge for his exile. Solomon stops the enemy knights and also confirms that Camus is definitely involved. But the plague has already started to spread throughout the city. Also, did I mention that these squirrels can fly? The farmer returns to the capital and meets his father, but by that point, Camus had infiltrated his pharmacy and stabbed both Latte and Cedric with a poisoned dagger. Pharma and Bruno quickly arrive at the scene. Bruno tries to fend off against Camus while Pharma tries to save his buddies. Unfortunately, Camus was too much for Bruno, but right then, Pharma uses his divine arts to completely and utterly destroy Camus, along with the demonic power that seemed to have possessed him. And once that's taken care of, he then proceeds to stop the outbreak. Thanks to Pharma and everyone else, the Black Death was stopped right in its tracks. The festival happens as planned, and the parallel world pharmacy is once again open for business. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.